It has been an extremely eventful day in regards to the coaching cycle and a bunch of moves that have happened. And what we thought was going to happen is now evolving a bit. So let's keep you up to date on the latest updates revolving Robert Saleh, because I know you as 49er fans want to know, is Robert Saleh going to get hired by the Jags now that they have fired Trent Baalke as the general manager? But let me tell you what we are hearing and what is being reported currently right now. As you can see from Mike Silver, this is what he has to say. He says, the belief in NFL circles is that the Jags coaching search is not limited to Robert Saleh and Patrick Graham, the two coordinators with whom they've scheduled second interviews, and the belief was fortified by the news of Balky's dismissal. Keep an eye on Joe Brady, Kellen Moore, and other assistants whose teams are still in the playoffs. So this is very interesting because I think as our initial reaction to Trent Baalke being fired was that this is actually a bad thing for the 49ers because it actually gets rid of the biggest problem in the building, which was Trent Baalke, and what made that Jaguars job so undesirable was because of Trent. And as a 49er fan, you know exactly why it's an undesirable job to work under Trent Baalke. He was basically a guy that was heading into this season on borrowed time. It felt like he was going to be fired eventually, but they decided to do it now after it became clear that no one wanted to work with him. So the belief is that, all right, well, this opens up the door for Robert Saleh to come in and be the head coach. Well, again, this is an evolving process, so I want to keep you up to date on all the current situations that are happening. Liam Cohen, the guy who was believed to be the top candidate for the Jaguars, who did not have the second interview and was going to be hired on and stay as the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Bucks and was going to get a raise to become one of the highest paid coordinators in the league. Well, according to Rick Stroud, who covers the Tampa Bay Bucks, it is, and it hasn't been reported yet, Liam Cohen hasn't signed the contract yet. So not signing the contract kind of leaves his options open. He could still theoretically become the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now that Trent Baalke isn't available, maybe this sways Liam Cohen to be like, all right, well, I'll reconsider the Jaguars position now because you have my attention. Because if Liam's like, listen, Shad, I'm not working under Trent. I'm not going to do that. I'm not coming in with a general manager who is probably going to be fired after this year, which means I is more likely that I'm going to be one and done. So now this offers up an opportunity for Cohen to also bring in a general manager and for them to be hired at the same time. So that is a much more appealing situation, especially for a first time head coach, knowing that he's in tandem with his general manager and it's someone that he probably has a working relationship with. So this, again, I think opens up the possibility that maybe Robert Saleh returns. I don't know, dude. This has been a crazy day. We also found out from Tim Kawakami of the SF Standard that there are conversations happening within the building that Pete Carroll could be an option. Apparently, from at least what Tim Kawakami is saying, he is sensing anxiety from inside 49ers headquarters based on Trent Baalke getting fired because of the same thing that we talked about is that with Baalke being fired, it makes that head coaching job that much more desirable. So the problem with this now is this process is going to probably be delayed beyond Friday. We thought maybe we would get our resolution because Robert Saleh was going in for his second interview on Friday. And so we felt like that was just they're going to do the second interview. He was going to get offered the job, and boom, there you go. And 49ers have to settle for Brandon Staley, which the entire fan base is absolutely opposed to doing. So, a lot of moving pieces here with this coaching carousel. This has been one of the more interesting coaching carousels that I've seen in my time covering the league. And I think it's been interesting to watch. I think it's interesting to see top candidates turn down the Jaguars' job because of Trent. Then something that Shad Khan should have done immediately after the season was fire Trent Baalke. But as you can see, they made an adjustment to that, and they realized that having Trent Baalke doesn't make them an attractive place for a brand new head coach. So he makes a decision that was probably hard to do, but they did it anyways. And yeah, so I don't know what that means for the San Francisco 49ers directly, indirectly, but at minimum, it feels like the 49ers need to have a couple more options because currently they have only, as we know of, interviewed three candidates: Robert Saleh, Brandon Staley, and Townsend, the defensive backs coach for the Lions. That's it. That's three guys. And I know the fan base has been restless with this notion putting all the chips into the Robert Saleh basket, because if it doesn't work out, are you really feeling comfortable with Brandon Staley as your defensive coordinator? Jason Aponte, we did a show earlier today. He actually made a really good point. He's like, has anyone came and asked for a Brandon Staley interview the last 2 years and like for a defensive coordinator job? And the answer is no. No one has came and asked about Brandon Staley. Like even Robert Saleh, he got fired from being a head coach, and he's got three jobs lined up or at least three interviews lined up, and a DC job just waiting for him, opposed to like Staley. So it kind of shows the counterbalance of why I think fans are not so excited about Staley being the potential DCs, because he's not sought after. The league isn't banging down the 49ers door to even interview him for a potential. Steve Wilkes is getting interviews before Brandon Staley is. So it's an interesting scenario. It's an interesting dilemma for the 49ers, but as it currently stands right now, it keeps kind of weighing back and forth. And I know we're kind of getting into that point of this story where it's like, oh my gosh, like, which is it? Which is it going to be? I don't know if we're going to know by the end of this week. Maybe we find out next week. I don't know. I was hoping to find out sooner rather than later, but appears because the Jags are kind of what appears to be reopening this conversation, this interview process, it is only going to continue to put the 49ers in a waiting period. So do they go out and interview more candidates just to be sure? I think they should, but you tell me what they should do in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.